John, let's talk about what the views were, but let's talk about specifically what happened. Again, on that plane ride up there, and he gaggled for 6 minutes. Steve Holland asked him a few questions. He said he wasn't going to say what he really wanted, but he did say what he really wanted, expecting the immediate ceasefire or a ceasefire quickly, and said that Putin wanted he thought he had a superior negotiating strategy because our economy is hot, 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 and theirs is dead, 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 and they want a piece of our action, and that's why they were bringing the business leaders along. But that's not what happened. So unpack that for me, if you will. How
Yeah.
delusional was Donnie?
Well, I don't. I've never heard a foreign policy theory that trade can solve all things, and that's increasingly what we hear from President Trump. Um, what, some things did happen at the meeting. You could argue that Trump came back empty-handed. I don't think that's the way to look at it quite accurately, because you have to look at what Putin was demanding, and you have to look at what Trump agreed to, because it has changed the course of this possible pathway to some kind of, I guess, peace is what we'll call it, for lack of a better term. But this is some
Surrender.
really good reporting by the New York Times and the Washington Post yesterday. They have a lot of sources in Europe. Of course, the President Trump on the plane ride back talked to Zelensky. Then they conferenced in a bunch of European and NATO folks, and of course, the European and NATO folks called up their favorite reporters. We got some really good stuff yesterday. So let's just go down the list. Trump backed off new sanctions or tariffs on Russia. Advantage Putin. Ceasefire out. They will now pursue some kind of longer-term peace deal. That will take a while. Even if they get a framework, both sides will have strings and demands within that framework before there's a final peace. So Putin, who does still have the military advantage, can continue fighting while they pursue that, and it will take a while. Advantage Putin. Putin demanding all of the Donbass, all of the territory his military already occupies inside Ukraine, and possibly other unoccupied areas. Advantage Putin. Russia, he wants Russian to be declared again an official language inside Ukraine. It's kind of symbolic, still advantage Putin. He wants security for Russian Orthodox churches in Ukraine. Didn't see that one coming. Advantage Putin. The Donbass would give Putin control over minerals, including rare earth minerals, and when you sell those, you make a lot of money. He'll probably cut Don in some way. Advantage Putin. No land swaps, other than Putin gets a bunch of land, but Ukraine doesn't get any land. Advantage Putin. U.S. security guarantees. That's advantage. That's a push, because Ukraine gets security guarantees even though they don't believe they're worth anything, but it's not NATO. There won't be NATO forces there. That would be advantage Putin. And now Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is on TV this morning saying Trump deserves credit just for trying and putting all this time into it. So the Nobel Peace Prize still within reach. That's advantage Trump. I didn't list one thing that's advantage Zelensky, and here he comes tomorrow to the White House this is basically a summit, a NATO summit tomorrow at the White House. They're going to need a bigger room than the Oval. If only there was a ballroom.
Oh, please don't start.
And you know Trump's going to say that at the top of his
Oh
remarks.
yeah.
I guess they'll do this in the East Room or the State Dining Room tomorrow. It's going to be a really big group.
The diplomatic
Everybody
room.
brings staff and security and press and
Oh yeah,
all kinds
that's
of.
right. But they could do it in the diplomatic room, but that might be a bit small.
But yeah, so who got Putin clearly won this thing when Putin climbed in the beast, Trump's limousine, the presidential limousine. I think every reporter who's ever covered the beat aged about 5 years at the sight of Putin in the beast. That's just, I've been shooed along on the driveway going to get in the motorcade when I was in the pool, looking in the beast, taking a look in the back seat, and the Secret Service is like, okay, guys, keep moving, don't look in there.
Yeah.
And there's the Russian president who, just think about 8 months ago, Joe Biden was still the president. They weren't even speaking. And if you look at the Russian spin, what they've said in their social media footprint, they're basically, without saying it, selling this as a U.S.-Russian alliance has formed.
Yes,
Like
that's
this was
exactly how they're pushing it.
the Russians are selling this as the plates have shifted. So
Well,
to
I
say
think
that Trump didn't get anything, I think Trump and Putin got a lot in Alaska. They got each
well,
other.
yeah, yeah, and well, he also the one thing that Trump got out of it that he wanted, besides being told that the Russia hoax. Remember, Putin also came forward and said the war never would have occurred if Trump had been president, and Trump thanked him for that. He loved that. The fact of the matter is, the war began before even Putin's lying about it, because the war began before Trump was ever in office. It began during Obama's administration. So it's just bullshit that he laid out, and to think that he had the upper hand on Putin at any point in time, to me, seems another indication of delusion and the fact that he just doesn't want to talk about two words, Jeff Epstein. But
Yeah,
that's
and,
just,
and the sight of F-35 fighters escorting Putin's plane into U.S. airspace. The only reason those F-35s and F-22s are stationed in Alaska is to deter against Russia. They commonly, they somewhat regularly intercept Russian bombers and fighters when
yeah,
Russia trolls us and crosses the line out there in the North Atlantic. It was
and
just
they escort him back.
the imagery was just it was weird because the F-22's parked behind the stage on the tarmac. The F-22 was built to go against Russia. It's just the whole thing was, and it's the Trump show, so of course it was bewildering and confusing.